Currently in Rise of Kingdoms, everybody is talking about the 2 new infantry commanders coming to the game, and it's not necessarily because their stats are amazing, it's because that they're bringing a whole new mechanic we've never ever seen before, Smite damage. So today, I'll be talking about Smite damage. I will discuss what it actually is, who will have access to it, and why it could possibly be one of the worst changes ever added to the game that could kill so many commanders. So if you want to know more about Smite damage, and why it could be seriously affecting you and how you can maybe even prepare for it, you want to watch till the end. Now let's start off by discussing what Smite damage is, and in the really simple form of it, Smite damage is just another form of damage factor. All commanders in the game, pretty much every single one, besides like a very minute few, have some form of damage factor in their kit, and damage factor is just damage dealt straight to the target on top of a normal attack. So all active skills that deal damage, let's say Edward of Woodstock's active skill, Thutmose, Khan, WOOOO, Minamoto, literally every single commander that does active skill damage is going to deal some form of direct damage to the target. And currently, there was only ever one form of direct damage, and that was literally direct damage factor, just straight up damage to the target. It's all we've ever known about. But Smite damage is just a different version of this. Smite damage is just, if there were no direct damage factor, it's Smite damage factor. That's the only difference. Instead of being direct, it's called Smite. And the other difference with that is that it's not affected by skill damage boosts like most other damage factors are. It is instead boosted by normal attack. So a commander with boosted normal attack is going to boost how much Smite damage does. So a commander like Pyrus, who has a 20% normal attack boost, is going to deal 20% basically more skill damage on their active skill, but a commander with a skill damage boost like Juan on his expertise is actually not going to deal any extra skill damage on their active skill, so there's kind of a trade-off there. You're dealing a different form of damage factor that's boosted by normal attack, however, all skill damage boosts do not apply to it. And the other major thing with it is that it does not actually get affected by skill damage reduction, so any commanders in the game, whichever skill damage reduction, will not reduce the damage from Smite damage, since it's Smite damage and not skill damage. So for example, Saladin's skill damage reduction is actually not going to be affected by Smite damage, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. Now that we've discussed what Smite damage actually is, which commanders will have access to it? And currently we only know of 2 commanders, and those 2 are the 2 new infantry who you can see on screen. These 2 new infantry commanders will be dealing Smite damage factor on their active skills and also in their passive skill slots. I know that Lao Che, I'm pretty sure, has Smite damage on one of his passive skill slots. Gorgo, however, does not have Smite damage on a passive skill slots, if I'm not mistaken. Lao Che is a 5-target AoE, while Gorgo is a single-target active skill. So they're going to be the current only commanders who deal Smite damage. No one else in the game does deal it, so it is a completely new mechanic. We have never seen what it truly does, so most of the stuff about it at the moment is still speculation, but they're going to be a guaranteed 2 commanders to have Smite damage. I doubt Lilith is just going to drop the Smite damage last minute, so we'll be looking at those 2 commanders in the game currently having Smite damage. We don't know if they're going to add more later, but only Gorgo and Lao Che for now are going to be confirmed to have Smite damage. So if only 2 commanders are going to have Smite damage, and they're not going to be that overpowered, why am I really concerned about it? Why am I saying that it's going to be the worst addition to the game? And the reason I'm saying it is because it's going to literally have the potential to remake the whole entire Rise of Kingdoms meta. Literally every single thing in the whole entire game could get redone, because currently skill damage is such an important part of the game. Direct damage factor is so important. And I'll start off by giving you a few examples. Boudica Prime, one of the most powerful archer commanders in the game, one of the most valuable things in her kit, is a skill damage taken increase on the opponent. Skill damage taken increase being so versatile that it works with literally every single commander on the whole entire game, and it's a massive debuff. It's extremely powerful, and it brings her a ton of value. Now, if you were to add a Smite commander into the game that's not affected by this, and they are the meta commanders, Boudica suddenly loses a ton of effectiveness, and that means a ton of value is lost in her kit. It also extends further from there. A ton of commanders which synergize well with current meta commanders, such as YSG, someone who was released over 4 years ago, now won't synergize at all with Smite commanders. Like, YSG's kit used to be good purely because of the damage factor and because of the rage. He really needs that skill damage bonus now, though. The 1700 damage factor does not cut it, it's not even close. So this 50% skill damage bonus is probably the last thing keeping YSG alive. However, put that with new Smite commanders, let's say they released Archer Smite commanders, then YSG completely dead in the water. You can't really benefit from that active skill damage bonus. So, what's the point of it? Well, you can't run him with any of the older commanders. If they release new Smite commanders, why would you backwards invest and get commanders like LIANG when you could just run the new Smite meta commanders? So YSG becomes useless, Boudica becomes useless. Commanders with skill damage reductions like Henry, Ramses, Saladin, all these commanders which are extremely powerful, like Henry especially, one of the current meta archer commanders, fairly weak after that. Like Henry's kit, one of the main things in it is this skill damage taken reduction. So if he basically loses out on this, then he's already taken a massive hit to his effectiveness because his stats are good, but they're not going to carry him forever. And the one stat that's going to carry him for quite a while is definitely the skill damage taken reduction. But if he can't fully access it, then what is the point of it? Like, it's not going to do that much. And that means a lot of commanders in the game, like almost every single one with any skill damage related stuff, is completely screwed over, and it extends even further from there. Since pretty much every single commander does damage factor, I don't think there's a single commander in the game which does not do some form of damage factor, besides like Richard and Constantine, and I guess Charles Martel and Attila and Takeda. It's like 5 commanders there, out of like the 70-something commanders. You're looking at so many commanders who deal damage factor, not really synergizing well with any of the new Smite commanders. If they were to really go all in on this Smite, every single commander here who has damage factor will not synergize anyway pretty much with the Smite damage commanders. We know as a fact that Gorgo with Lao Che is oddly enough performing better than CPO with Lao Che. Obviously, CPO has AoE, it's still going to be a much better combination, but it is in a 1v1 situation performing better. So if they keep adding more infantry with more Smite damage, they're going to perform way better than CPO, especially if they had another AoE tanky primary like CPO with CPO's debuff that only did Smite damage. CPO thrown away, like why would you run him? He's going to be boosted by the skill damage boost, but Smite damage doesn't need that. He gets completely screwed over. So that means literally every single commander with damage factor, even Nevsky, even Hauche Bing, Justinian, any new commander that has direct damage factor is at risk of not being in the meta within literally one commander cycle, like less than a year at this point. They have the risk of becoming on your bench and not really a meta commander anymore, because Smite damage could literally reshape the meta, making all these commanders extremely weak against the current meta of normal attack damage and bypassing skill damage reductions. And it extends even further from there, because why would it stop there? If we're reshifting the whole entire meta, since direct damage factor has always been such a major part of it, Lilith obviously released a ton of stuff which boosts skill damage, one of which being the Ottoman Civilization, active skill damage boost of 5%. First of all, civilizations are a minor thing, like you can switch these easily, so this is not too devastating, but that Ottoman civilization, if they make Smite damage meta, way less useful. Then we've got city skins. City skins, there are a ton of city skins in the game which give skill damage boosts, one of the most notable being the one available in the KVK shop called Twilight Falls, which gives a 5% skill damage bonus. It's a really, really solid field skin. A lot of people who run mixed murder really choose to run this skin because the skill damage bonus is really, really nice, and it's quite easy to access this skin. It's fairly free to play, and it's way more direct than some of these other city skins which aren't as good. So anyone with Twilight Falls kind of gets screwed over, and it extends further from there, because why would it stop there? We've also got equipment. Equipment is another major part of the game, and a few equipment set bonuses, most notably being the Dragon Breath set, actually are boosted by skill damage. They boost the skill damage of the commanders wearing them, so if you've got commanders which have Dragon Breath gear but are dealing Smite damage, then you're missing out on 3% of stats which would have been good, but now are not very good. And it extends even further from there, because why would it stop? And in the way it extends is to your armaments and formations, a relatively new system. I say relative new, it's almost a year old now. But the reason that this is a major issue is because so many players have the wedge formation. I reckon if you went in your alliance chat right now and said, who's purchased stuff for the wedge formation, who's really focused in on their wedge formation, almost every single player would say I have, because it was literally the meta. Everyone said wedge formation, get wedge formation, get wedge formation. Even players who spent a ton of money, unless they were like a specific rally or garrison leader, went for wedge formation because it was still even the best value to use your chests on, just your pick one chest for the formations. Now you get screwed over because, especially with wedge formation, which is literally all just skill damage, you get completely screwed. And players like myself who went and got special inscriptions for their wedge formation, if they make Smite damage a thing, I get hardcore screwed over. So it's really, really bad. I'm going to have bad equipment. My city skins are not going to work. My commanders are going to be way less valuable. And the civilization I'm using is going to have to be swapped. So really, whole entire meta is going to be reshifted. The main part of it being commanders, all because they're going to change it to Smite damage. Now that I've pretty much just spelled out the whole entire Doom of the Rise of Kingdoms meta, what good news can we pull away from this? And the good news is, it might not happen. There is a solid chance that Lilith leave Smite damage as just a Smite damage thing. Maybe they release Cav commanders after that Smite damage, and that's it. They just stop it there. There's a very, very good chance they do that, because they've done that before. For example, Gilgamesh is a really unique example in the way that he had a really strong debuff. He had a blood craving debuff. We'd never ever seen it before. And he's the only commander ever since then to have the blood craving debuff. They've never added another commander. Like, even often commanders like Tamiris, who we thought had a really unique debuff, eventually they added another commander with Tamiris' debuff, that being Sargon. But there is a fairly solid chance that they just leave smite damage on just Lao Che and Gorgo, and that would be really fine. I would be completely fine with it being in the game at that point, because Gorgo and Lao Che are really strong, but they're not overpowered, and they're not going to be to the point where they would shift the whole entire meta, especially for players who run archers, who run calves, who have equipment and stuff related fully to skill damage. They're not going to be as badly affected as a player like myself, who's a full archer main, and then I have to switch to smite damage, and players who have a ton of mixed marchers, and they've gone all in on wedge formation, they're not going to be as badly affected, because you could easily switch around one march to do the smite damage. You can just grab a new set of armaments. You can maybe make a different set of equipment. It's not too difficult, but with 6 marches, 7 marches, your city skins and also your civilizations and also your equipment, like a whole equipment remake, that's where it becomes a problem. So if Lilith just sticks with Gorgo and sticks with Lao Che, maybe they release an oddball commander every now and again with smite damage, it would be fine. I don't think it would really damage the game that badly, but if they really go hard in on smite damage, that's where the really bad stuff comes out. The stuff I told you before, where commanders become useless and every single player gets screwed over, especially free-to-players, whales, pretty much everyone gets screwed over because you either have to spend a ton of money again or pretty much restart, run one march on the open field till you can get more smite damage commanders. And obviously this change will not happen instantly unless Lilith just dropped a ton of smite damage commanders, but it would happen within the next 2 years. So if Lilith did really decide to go all in on smite commanders, we would see players literally having to drop their legendary skins, change civilizations, make whole new sets of equipment. Plus, we're going to have new equipment on the way, which is going to affect everyone even more. Plus, everyone's going to have to pretty much drop all their current legendary commanders. So I don't think it'd be good for the game if Lilith goes all in on this smite thing, and I'm really hoping they don't. I think it'd be fine if they do it with Gorgo and Lao Che and kind of stop there. Or they release it every now and again. It still wouldn't be too bad for the game. But if they really go all in on smite, that could literally kill the game meta. So now, if you enjoyed today's video, you found what I said interesting about smite damage, or you found the facts I gave you very helpful, consider joining my Discord server where you can chat with other people who watch my YouTube channel. You can even chat with me, since I try to be as active as possible. You can also promote jumper groups, kingdoms. You can look for kingdoms, ask questions about your equipment, commanders, events coming up. More Than Gems. I have a More Than Gems schedule on the Discord. It's going to be a really good place to get Rise of Kingdoms information and just have a fun time. So if you want to join the Archer Syndicate Discord, it will be in the description and in the pinned comment, and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.